Welcome to the HealthiHer podcast. Your host, Dr. Amy Brenner, is a board-certified OBGYN with additional certifications in functional and integrative medicine. This podcast is meant to help women find reliable, relevant information to help them feel better, look better, and live better. Here you will hear in-depth information about hormones, sexual medicine, aesthetics, cosmetic gynecology, and functional medicine.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of HealthiHer. And today we have a guest. His name is Mike Van Lenten, and he's a veteran at Cyton, one of the premier laser companies in the United States. And we're going to talk about a really exciting, it's kind of new, but not really new, new device that we brought into our practice called the Hero BBL machine. So Michael's been an expert with Cyton, and this is one of their newest additions. So thanks for joining us, Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. And honored to not only have you and your team as now members of the Cyton family, but for your patients to be experiencing these incredible treatments that are just improving their lives and making their skin just so much better. So excited to be here.
Yeah, so our listeners might not even know what BBL is. They may have heard of IPL, but let's just go over some basics of what's an IPL and what's BBL, first of all. Sometimes people are like, are you doing Brazilian butt lift? I'm like, nope, that's not what it is.
Yeah, and arguably Broadband light, which is our BBL, has been around longer than that BBL that you see on the Kardashians and on Instagram, I guess. But yes, BBL by Cyton. BBL stands for Broadband light. And this is a light-based technology. So I think there's a couple things that we want to kind of define for our listeners is two types of energy-based devices, or really there's a few different types. There's laser, there's light, then there's radio frequency energy-based devices. And all those devices are trying to accomplish a certain task. They all do them slightly different. Some have some similar goals, but what we'll focus on today is a light-based technology. So using a flash lamp technology to basically choose a target and or a skin concern. And the type of technology we call that is a pulsed light technology. And the first generation of pulse light technologies were called IPLs, or intense pulse light. And those are still around today and made by other manufacturers, but really haven't really kept up with the times too much and really haven't advanced. Cyton, we're a U.S.-based company. We're based out in Palo Alto, California. I myself have been with the company for 14 years, and I cover the Ohio Valley area, which is about 6 or 7 states. So the technology that Cyton developed is called Broadband light, which is kind of a newer, more powerful, safer, more advanced version of that older IPL technology. But what a pulsed light technology does in general is use a flash lamp or a bright flash of light and then filter that light to more specifically go after skin concerns such as pigmentation or sun damage that presents itself in the form of a brown spot or a sunspot. We can also choose a specific filter of light to go after a vascular concern like rosacea or little blood vessel either on your face or body. And then we could also use other filters with BBL to target hair removal, acne, and probably most important, and really what we really like to preach to our customers is using this light-based technology to keep your skin looking youthful, really anti-aging. So you think about correction of photo damage or sun damage, and then the maintenance portion. So in short, BBL does a lot of different things, but I think at its core and what we like to use it most for is correcting sun damage and making patients' skin look better and younger.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. I've heard it called other things of photofacial, ForeverYoung BBL. Can you explain to people what those terms might mean?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of terms out there. You see photofacial spelled with PHOTO. You see photofacial with FOTO. You see ForeverYoung BBL, which is one of our BBL treatments, and now we have even an advancement called BBL Hero. At its root, all of those treatments are using that same light-based technology from BBL, and again, BBL stands for broadband light, and using that technology to address all the visible signs of aging. And we say, the sun presents itself in three different ways: red stuff, brown stuff, and wrinkles. So you have the brown spots and the little freckles that you see, the rosacea and flushing and telangiectasias that appear, and then certainly texture and wrinkles. And BBL can address all three of those. Whether you call it a photofacial or a ForeverYoung BBL or Hero, it's using the same flash lamp technology from Cyton to kind of harness the power of that light to address those concerns. The nice thing about this technology, BBL, is that it's considered non-ablative. So it's not removing or vaporizing any skin. It's keeping your upper layer of skin, called the epidermis, intact. And the light is transmitted through that skin and is attracted to those targets that I mentioned: pigment, vascular, etc. So you really have no downtime with BBL, except for a little bit of a mild swelling, and you might have some of the pigmentation get darker, but you could certainly cover with makeup very easily.
Yeah, you don't have to you shouldn't have to plan for time off of work with this.
Not usually, no.
Have you had treatments with this device yet?
I have, not enough. It's like I always say to my wife, it's like the shoemaker's kid that has no shoes. I have a very expensive laser in my garage that I use for my demos and my trainings, but I certainly don't do enough trainings that are treatments that I should, because I'm usually teaching, like that shoemaker. But I probably do 2 to 3 treatments a year, and I think of my skin now in this kind of maintenance phase. Whereas if you looked at me, from a few feet away, you wouldn't see any freckles or broken blood vessels, maybe a little bit of redness because of my Irish ancestry. But I keep up on the treatments a few times a year, kind of like going to the dentist twice a year for your annual checkups. Even if you don't have cavities, you're still going to go get your checkups, which actually I did coincidentally yesterday. I got a dental cleaning, and he said to me, no cavities, keep doing what you're doing, and I'll see you in 6 months. Mm-hmm. That's really what we need to start thinking about with our skin, is that even if you don't have a lot of sun damage present, you don't have a lot of brown spots or rosacea, broken vessels, we still want you to come in a couple times a year to keep your skin looking youthful. So that's really kind of that maintenance program. Now, if you have, I apologize, I have a lot going on over here.
No worries.
2-year-old screaming in the background and my Amazon going off. But if you have visible signs of aging, like brown spots and rosacea, etc., we want to get you on a plan to correct what we see. And get your skin in the best possible shape, and then we continue with those. So again, I like to use analogies, but think about if you're starting a workout routine, you're going to kind of be in that initial or that phase of really trying to, get your body in the best possible shape. But once you have achieved your goals, you don't just stop working out. You don't just start eating Snickers bars again, right? Every day. You gotta keep up with your diet and your exercise to maintain that result. And we want to start thinking of our skin in that same respect.
Yeah, I got to be honest, Mike, when you came to talk to me about the new upgrades, which we haven't talked about yet, but when I bought this device, I bought it to have a really good option to teach red and browns. And I didn't even realize, or maybe I glossed over that or didn't focus on that, didn't know all the other benefits of that. It helps with collagen production and wrinkles and and the study, which we'll talk about in a minute, of the scientific study of, it really keeps you for looking young forever of when you do it over the long run. And I never looked at it as a maintenance treatment. I thought it was going to be for people specifically just coming in for browns and reds.
Sure. Yeah, no, I get back to that dental analogy. Yeah, if you're walking into, Dr. Brenner's office today and you have a bunch of sun damage, think of it like, filling those cavities. We want to correct, but then also we want to keep you on a path of maintenance. And interestingly enough, about the maintenance portion, Saiton for many years, looked at patients that had, kept up with consistently doing these treatments. And there was a common denominator. Everyone's skin looked better years and years later just by doing a couple treatments with their maintenance packages each year. And, so Saiton sought out to try to quantify that. And they created a study that was really the genesis of this ForeverYoung program. And really what Saiton wanted to do was look at this technology and see, first of all, what was it doing to skin? We noticed, obviously, through seeing pictures and before and after pictures, that BBL was minimizing pigmentation and making redness look diminished. And skin was clearer and healthier. But they wanted to be able to quantify that. They wanted to see if the light was actually changing skin at a cellular level. So Saiton partnered up with Stanford Dermatology, the famous, university, Stanford out in California, and they did this really cool study that looked at genes and gene expression. And what the smart folks at Stanford did is they saw that patients who are older, their genes that are known indicators of youth, through the Human Genome Project, they've been able to identify which genes are associated with youth, had essentially been turned off. Think of them as a light switch. And as you age, those genes turned off and aren't expressive. When they mapped the genes of younger patients, it was inverse. Those patients that were younger had those genes basically flipped on. So they did this study where they actually took those older patients and then treated them with BBL and map their genes again. And what they found is that the genes that were known indicators of youth that were associated with markers of youth, including elastin production, collagen production, etc., had flipped back on. So we know objectively that BBL, this flash lamp technology, can actually make our skin cells behave differently and younger. So that was a really groundbreaking study. The second study they did was equally as important. They took patients and they followed them over a 10-year period. And what they did is they took these patients, there were 11 of them, and each patient had to have a minimum of one treatment, but they all ended up having about an average of 3 BBL treatments per year. No other cosmetic surgery or laser resurfacing. They took their before and after pictures and they put them in a huge binder and they basically jumbled them up. So the before picture for patient A was on page 2, and the after picture for patient A was on page 21. And 500 blinded observers, including physicians, nurses, estheticians, and even lay people like myself, flipped through the book and without any cue, just wrote down what you thought their age was. When the pictures were put back in the correct order, the after picture scored 9 years younger than the pre-treatment picture, even though they had aged chronologically 10 years. So what does that tell us? Patients that maintain a regular regimen of BBL essentially aged backwards, not only from a objective measurement of their skin cells and how their skin behaves at a cellular level, but also from a subjective analysis of 500 providers, they aged in reverse. So this is really powerful technology, and really the word is spreading. It's quite exciting.
Yeah. I love that there's this, as being a doctor, that there's science behind it. It's not just, 5 before and after pictures here, let's put it to market, but proven scientific studies that this is what it's doing, and it truly works. So super cool.
Absolutely.
And the doctor that did this study, when you look at, he even shows his skin. Dr. Bitter, how old do you think he is? Like 60,
He just
55?
it's so funny. He literally just celebrated his 66th birthday yesterday, and he posted pictures on Instagram, and he is his skin looks like someone who's maybe 15 years younger than. He's in tremendous physical shape too, but which is actually interesting. He's a triathlete. He is out in the world living, certainly does not live in his basement away from the sun. He lives his life, but he goes and does, a few treatments a year. He does them in the mirror to himself, coincidentally. But he does a few treatments of BBL every year, and his skin looks like someone that is in their 40s, not his 60s. So pretty incredible. But yeah, Cyton is literally, the name is genesis of science and photons. Photons we use as, as a part of laser and light-based medicine. So science and photon together is Cyton. And our company is based out in Palo Alto, California, and founded by two physicists who really were pioneers in laser and light-based medicine. So yes, every product we develop and come to market with is not just two, fuzzy before and afters. Literally, you can go on Instagram and type in hashtag Cyton BBL or ForeverYoung BBL, or just go on Dr. Brenner's website and see hundreds and hundreds and thousands of before and afters from the last 15 years of this technology. So certainly proven in both the lab and in clinical use.
So BBL has been around for, how long did you say? 15? Your BBL 15 years?
The first generation was launched in about 2005. Yeah.
So let's talk about what's new about it. When you came into my office, of course, I'm not going to tell you what this, but the first time you came in and said, buy this, I'm like, this new edition, I'm like, I have to have it. Now, it took me a couple months to make that decision, but because these devices, are not like super inexpensive, but I'm like, I have to have this with this new edition. So let's talk about what's new about it in the past 15 years. It's my understanding it actually has the 2021 New Beauty Award. Did you know that?
Yeah, that I just saw that recently. Cyton's been recognized, over and over for technological innovations. And, BBL had gotten some continual upgrades over the years. As a product evolves in laser and light-based medicine, often advancements are in usability and safety profile. BBL had gotten such revisions over the years. The spot adapters got better, the cooling got better, the software got better and more user friendly. But one thing that I think kind of evaded BBL, and certainly BBL was already far ahead of other IPL technologies, was the speed aspect. And most IPLs, including BBL, really were maxed out at about 1 shot per second. So you had, treatments that went pulse, 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 pulse. And that was fine and dandy, and BBL, normal BBL, did a wonderful job. But what Cyton wanted to do was not only increase the speed, but also the efficacy and the comfort of that device, and reduce what we call striping. So when you do, say, a treatment with standard pulsed light, including BBL, say on your chest, if you don't line up those squares perfectly, you could have little gaps in between. And what Cyton wanted to do was improve the speed, but also really minimize what we call that striping. So Cyton, this is about a 4 or 5 year project, developed a technology called HERO. And HERO is an acronym, actually, and we released this technology right kind of after I would say the pandemic kind of opened up a little bit in June or July of last year, after the initial shutdowns. And it really was appropriate. We called it BBL HERO. And it was a hero to the industry, hero to Cyton, because certainly we had 3 months of no sales or revenue because of the shutdown. But it also was an acronym. And that HERO acronym meant high energy rapid output. And it was exactly that. It was higher energies and really fast output, meaning that we could pulse the technology up to 4 times faster. So, in the past, we would do a chest with BBL, or another IPL would be even longer take. It might take you 15 minutes to do that chest. Now we could do it in 2 minutes. So it really reduced the operator time, and then it really increased the results and the comfort as well. So a huge advantage. And the Hero safety
it's
too.
virtually impossible to get the striping now.
You have to try really hard.
Yeah.
It's, I would say, virtually impossible. And we're actually using lower energy, but a higher, or I should say, lower energy, but a quicker pulse width. And I know our listeners may not understand that, but essentially what it equates to is a higher burst of power. But because we really increased the cooling and the comfort, the patients actually saw it as more comfortable. And because we could deliver that light faster, we just had this win-win of speed and comfort and efficacy. So it's been a big quantum leap. And Dr. Bitter, who's kind of the godfather of pulse light technology, called BBL Hero the biggest advancement in pulse light since the advent of BBL. So, a real big quantum leap. So we're excited that, the people of Cincinnati are going to be able to come to your practice and beyond, come to your practice to experience this.
Yeah. So we talked a little bit about what it feels like, and I've had other IPL treatments, and I've had one treatment so far with the BBL Hero to my chest, and it is night and day difference from a comfort standpoint. With my old IPL, it's pulse, which feels like a rubber band, like snapping at you. Snap, 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 which doesn't feel good. Versus when I had this treatment, I would say, it's not a facial, but I would not say it's uncomfortable. I'd say maybe a little bit of warmth, or it's not uncomfortable, but it's not comfortable, but it's not uncomfortable. I don't know how to quite put that.
Well, I think you're right. I'm stealing this from a friend, but BBL is not a treat; it's a treatment. It's not meant to be a pumpkin facial or going to a Veda and having a warm hot stone massage, but or even just a Swedish, whatever you want to call it. There is a little bit of heat. Because we need to deliver that heat to the skin. Of course, that's going to cause a reaction. But we have improved the comfort level. For our people that have never had the treatment, it probably feels like a little bit of a rubber band snap at first, but because of the you don't have as much anticipation of the pulse. It's such a rapid kind of in motion technology that there's less anticipation and less discomfort. So right. I wouldn't call it pain free, but there's far less. Yes.
Yeah, and my chest was it was over and done with in 2 minutes. So.
Yes.
And then that night.
Yeah. So if anyone can kind of bear it for a few minutes.
Yeah. My chest that night looked like a sunburn and was a little warm and kind of had that sunburn look to it. But then by the next morning, it was back to normal, and the pigment that I had was a little bit darker.
Yes. That will occur with any patient that has kind of visible sun damage in the form of what we call benign solar lentigine, or a little brown spot. And essentially what the light is doing is it's attracted to that brown spot. And it will heat up that brown spot and basically, for a lack of a better word, kind of fracture or cook that pigment. And the body's process to release or get rid of that pigment is to eliminate it through the process of cell turnover, or what we call transepidermal elimination of that pigment. So it will take, probably about a week or two for your body to fully process kind of lifting that pigment that's been heated up. But like you mentioned, you could wear a little tinted sunscreen over, if you're wearing, if it's on your face, you could certainly wear makeup. Really no downtime compared to, like a CO2 laser where you'd have to wear Aquaphor or Vaseline.
Yeah, and stay in the house for a week.
Sure, exactly.
I like about this is let's talk about what body parts you can treat. We obviously, when we think of this, we think of just the face. But sometimes when I watch TV or watch the news, like the newscasters, their face looks absolutely gorgeous, but they've forgotten about their chest or neck. So if you can explain to people, like, where can we treat with this?
Yeah, so true. And obviously, me and you have maybe we have trained eyes at this point, and we're looking for certain things. But you're so right that most people will either put makeup on or protect their face. But and I hear this 10,000 times is I wore sunscreen on my face, but I was out at the beach and I kept my hat or head underneath the umbrella, but the rest of my body I fried. And that's a common thing I wore iodine or baby oil growing up, and I have all this sun damage on my body. And most people will address their face first, but with this hero technology, it really has opened up patients to consider their body, their arms, your shoulders, your back, your chest, or your décolleté. Mm-hmm. So like you mentioned, you have beautiful skin on your face, but then you have this sun damaged chest. And when you go to wear that blouse or that dress that has a lower neckline, you're going to have all that sun damage on there. So why not have your face and your chest match? And I will tell you, it becomes a little addicting because once you do your chest, you're like, gosh, I'm going to do my shoulders, I'm going to do my arms, I'm going to do my leg, I'm going to do my backs. And now with the hero technology, that's so much easier, so much faster, so much more comfortable. Not only for the patient, but the provider too. It's a lot less time for them to be kind of struggling over doing that treatment.
Right in that category. Like my shoulders have all kinds of brown spots on it. My chest, my arms. I can't wait to continue with my whole body series. But up until this point, like our older IPL, number one, it would have taken me and another provider, to schedule an hour to treat, my whole back, chest, and arms versus literally your whole body can be done in less than 10 minutes. That's what's amazing about it. And really, again, like I said, and it doesn't hurt. That's the other thing is I'm not a fan of painful things. I'm the worst patient. So.
Yep. Yes, indeed.
I just wanted to end on one thing. I love it's a treatment, not a treat. I'm going to write that one down. But if you can also explain, I love the analogy that you gave me once about CrossFit is when you first came in, I'm like, well, where does this fit in with, and I think this is a common question for patients. Well, I'm already doing Botox and I did Morpheus, your RF microneedling, and I do chemical peels. And well, now you're telling me I need to do, a couple BBLs a year or Diamond Glow. And we're actually putting this in our series of how to get glowing skin. And I think this is one of the things to add to either get glowing skin or maintain your glowing skin. So if you could share your CrossFit analogy, I thought that was just beautiful. And then I'll let you get back to your
and I will
family. Go ahead.
Crazy kids. And now that's the beauty and the curse of working from home is that, I don't have to commute anywhere. I do commute. I travel all the time for work, but when I am in my office, I get interrupted quite a bit and I have a new baby. So, and a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old. So things are a little hectic around here. So apologize for that. But I will say this CrossFit analogy I stole from a mentor and friend of mine, Matt Toronto from Mint Aesthetics out in Kansas City, who are wonderful and aesthetic care out there. But it's simple. You think about skin. It is not just one thing. It's not just wrinkles. It's not just brown stuff or red stuff. You can't just expect to do one thing and have the best result. And Matt came up with that analogy, and I think it's so appropriate, in fitness now, not just CrossFit, but I think training in general, most trainers, including CrossFit, are thinking about kind of like your whole body. And they're not just doing bench presses, because if you just came into the gym and just did bench presses, oh, what about your cardiovascular health? And what about your, your back strength? And what about your biceps? And what about this and that? So, in CrossFit, you're doing jumps, you're doing squats, you're doing lunges, you're doing this, you're doing that, working different body areas and trying to have like muscle confusion. And that's, been a popular thing. So you don't get kind of in this rhythm of having the same thing over and over again and not experiencing breakthroughs in your performance. And if you think about skin in the same respect, if you're doing several different things throughout the year, and sometimes you're doing them, concurrently, you're going to have better outcomes. So number one, you got to protect and hydrate your skin. So you think about when you walk out the door every day, you should have hydration. And Dr. Brenner can talk to you, a little bit more specifically about skincare. I'm a laser nerd. I'm not a skincare nerd. So I'll let her talk to you about that. But think about hydration and then protection. Obviously, we need protection from the sun in forms of an SPF every day. So that's number one. That's kind of your daily brushing and flossing, or, the thing that you're doing every day. And then you want to be doing things sporadically through the year. Something, like a diamond glow, or like that's going to kind of polish your skin and kind of take off the dead layers of the stratum corneum, the epidermis. Then you have something, and hydrate. And then you're going to have something like BBL that's going to address photoaging with reds and browns, and keeping those genes and those cells activated. Then you could have something like radio frequency, Morpheus, that's going much deeper. Because remember, sun damage, reds and browns are much more superficial, whereas something like RF microneedling is going a couple millimeters into your skin. So sometimes 10 times deeper than the light is going. And that's going to address some of the laxity and some of the crepiness of the skin. So what I'm getting at is by doing different things throughout the year, some things you got to do all the time, like skincare and sunscreen. But by mixing it up, say every month or every quarter, you're going to have the best outcomes. If you're doing a BBL, either when the clocks change or when the seasons change, that's a good way to think about it. Mm-hmm. Say if you're under 45, do it when the clocks change, so twice a year, right? If you're over 45, do it when the seasons change, 4 times a year. And create, little programs for yourself. And I know Dr. Brenner is, that you've put together programs for your staff, for your patients that address uniquely what their challenges are and what they want to accomplish. So I think for everyone,
for people to be able to address all aspects of not just what they look like on the outside, but how they feel on the inside too. So yeah, I love that CrossFit analogy. I thought that was beautiful.
And I think what COVID has taught us, I think we're looking at Zoom a little bit more, so we might be a little bit more hyper aware of our skin, etc. But I think in general, I think we've all become a little bit more aware of just wellness in general, and how our appearance and our skin quality can affect everything in our life, not just appearance and vanity, but also affect general wellness. And I think there's been a big push to address, kind of mind, body, and soul, and skin. So I think laser and light-based technology has never been more at the forefront of people's minds right now. And that's a good thing. I think we need to start thinking of our skin, like I mentioned, just like our exercise, just like our dental care, as something we're doing continually, and not just waiting for our skin to get in such crappy condition that we need to do something more drastic.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thank you so much for educating our listeners and talking to me. We didn't even have a chance today to talk about another aspect that this device can treat, is acne. And I have some teenage girls at home that my oldest has been upset with acne and couldn't wait for me to get this device. And so we've already done, I think, 3 treatments on her, and I would say her acne is 90+% resolved. So I'd love to have you back and talk about that aspect of this device.
Yeah, let's do this again. And, just in closing, we're so happy to have you and your team as part of the Sciton family. And, patients are in for a treat when they come visit the staff, the team. with Dr. Brenner is just wonderful, and they provide just incredible, care and knowledge, and, really want you to see the best outcomes and have invested in the best technology. So this is the place to come.
Oh, well, thanks for that. We'll talk soon.
Thank you for listening to this episode of HealthiHer. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and the web. Go to www.dramybrenner.com to learn more. This podcast is for general information only and does not constitute as medical advice, the practice of medicine, nursing, or other healthcare services. No patient-physician relationship is formed. The information in the podcast and any references, material, or links are at the sole discretion of the listener and not meant to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Listeners should not delay or disregard obtaining medical advice for any medical issues or diagnoses that they may have, and should seek medical advice from their healthcare provider for any such conditions.